Hello and most welcome to the marvelous year of 2012. This is the year where the famous, well, on the internet, not so famous, but very important experiment was made on the Canary Islands by Anton Zeilinger. It was between the beautiful island of Tenerife and the equally beautiful one called La Palma, La Palma.
Palma.
Palma. It proved that everything in the universe is absolutely connected and that topology, that is shape, is more important than geometry. Space, as well as we normally understand space. So it's topology instead of geography or geometry. Topology. We do have some very important topological objects like the Möbius strip and the Klein bottle,
Yummy. Klein bottle with pina colada.
You can fill it with a pina colada. Poor Anton Zeilinger had to wait until the year 2022 to receive his Nobel Prize, well deserved. This goes to show how utterly forgotten quantum mechanics is in ordinary parlance. Completely forgotten. So we will continue today, 2012, with Hao Tang. Hao Tang. Wang, Hao Tang. Bodily self-knowledge as a special form of perception. Last time we took a look at different models proposed by McDowell and O'Shaughnessy. They are at odds, contradictory to each other. O'Shaughnessy seem to be in more of the legions of a material understanding of the body, whereas McDowell as a pointer. An intermediate understanding there is to see the body as a 0 point. The 0 point of understanding, the sine qua non for everything, the supposition without a content. Why doesn't it have a content? The reason is it is very similar to the superposition. It's before the event of space, before the event of time. You can also compare it to a thing in water. Remember, 2 lectures ago, Kalle Lundblad mentioned water logic. See it as the in-betweenness of everything. Something malleable, but not unimportant. Something that you can change to whatever. But this does not mean that it is definite. It is in sharp contrast to everything definite. And this makes a contrast to something that could be perceived to be a sensation, of something. I sense this, or I experience this, or why not? We often speak about the ear. I hear it. The proprioception is the 0 point. It can contain everything. And the proprioceptive, very good, sensations are inseparable. We cannot describe them in any other terms than possibly position, movement, direction to some degree. I was also thinking about the 0 position that is almost some other thing in Alexander technique. 0 position could be the monkey, because it's a starting point of so many things. A 0 point from where all movement can stem. It also brought to my memory how we, many years ago, actually took up the 0 point. I don't know if you remember that, Kandlunda, but we spoke about the 0 as being the start of everything. The point where everything originates, not like an origo, but an all-encompassing. In quantum mathematics, if you divide something, well, in ordinary, actually in ordinary mathematics as well, something divided by 0 is infinity. It's everything. It's rather close to the lemniscate. 2 Möbius strips put together constitute the eternal symbol, which in itself is eternal, interminable. It doesn't stop. Let's continue, if we may, on page 80. It is on the 2nd paragraph. The last word was ruling. Page 80. Hao Tang. Hao Tang. This ruling can be contested, indeed, on terms derived from McDowell himself, namely the contrast between internal and external objects. The key point is the objects of proprioceptive knowledge are, unlike sensations, not internal objects. Because whether my arm is there or not, its position, its movement, all these matters are independent of my awareness of them. There is no of. It is not accusative. It is not transitive. It is intransitive understanding. Why intransitive? It doesn't take an object. It's pure movement. So listen to this once more. I think it's rather pertinent. Because whether my arm is there or not, its position, its movement, all these matters are independent of my awareness of them. Otherwise, put, my limbs, unlike my sensations, are at a distance from my mind. But if our limbs are, therefore, external objects of proprioception, we must hasten to add that they are not so external to our mind, our mind, our mind, or so distant from it, so distant from it, as objects of the external senses are. For that would make one's limbs or one's body alien to oneself and destroy proprioception as a kind of self-knowledge. 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 Rather, one's body is somewhere in between. Neither so far as to be alien to oneself, nor so close as to be simply part of one's mind. One's mind. This kind of midway distance is very special, and recognizing it is crucial to understanding the special relation between one's mind and body. In particular, recognizing it makes room for the notion of receptive self-knowledge. Receptive self-knowledge. Receptive self-knowledge. Because my limbs, being material bodies, are sufficiently distant or independent from my mind to be able to affect a special mode of its receptivity. But not so distant or independent as to lie beyond the scope of my self-knowledge. My self-knowledge. This special kind of self-affection from a midway distance when it happens against a proper cognitive background, that is a properly functioning body image in cooperation with a properly functioning intellect, gives us knowledge from within our limbs. Admittedly, this idea needs development and substantiation. Substantiation. Listen in, echo. Substantiation.
Substans.
Substantiation.
Yummy.
Indeed, let's have some substance. But Pachter, McDowell, it does not seem incoherent to maintain it. We need to hold with O'Shaughnessy that there are actual but extremely recessive proprioceptive sensations in our limbs in our daily life. And we can hold this. McDowell's general considerations do not compel us to deny that actuality. That actuality. We can increase confidence in this idea with a concrete example, namely the phenomenon of tics. 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 I got a tick.
Tics.
It has 8 legs. A common tic is the involuntary, sporadic, and slight twitching of an eyelid. The attendant sensations are prominent and not at all recessive, but they still count as proprioceptive, since they enable us to know from within the movement of a limb and are inseparable in Anscombe sense. This twitching is independent of one's knowledge because it might fail to affect one in the right way, owing to, for instance, neurological disturbances, so that it does not get registered by one's receptivity. By one's receptivity. By one's receptivity. By receptivity. But when it affects one properly, and one thereby comes to know it, as normally happens, one knows it both receptively and from within. This gives the idea of receptive self-knowledge a foothold. A foothold. A foothold. At this point, one might object that proprioceptive sensations are at most causally relevant to proprioceptive knowledge, but not epistemologically relevant. McDowell actually makes this point, and indeed, if they are not epistemologically relevant, we are not entitled to treat proprioceptive knowledge as perceptual, But proprioceptive sensations do play an epistemological role, a justificatory role. This point has already been made silently in my earlier discussion of proprioceptive mistake. For when the mistaken man is asked, "Why did you wrongly think your legs were bent?" he can answer, "Well, because I felt that way." I felt this way. This is a legitimate answer to a why question that demands justification. In such deceptive cases, justification takes the form of excuse, but it figures more positively in non-deceptive cases. Non-deceptive cases. Thus, for instance, if a man who knows his legs were bent is asked, "Why? Did you think so?" He can answer, "Because I feel or felt so." It is true that such exchanges are rare, but this does not affect their status as exercises in the practice of demanding and supplying justifications. Justifications. So I will stop at justifications here because I want to bring David Bohm here. I put a little pause here. I will here bring in David Bohm to make a connection to the 2012 realization by Anton Zeilinger, the Austrian physicist, and his team between La Gomera and Tenerife. David Bohm exposed a theory, and this was years before this revelation and discovery by Anton Zeilinger, and that is proprioception of thought, it's called. It is not only by thought, it is a feeling in of entanglement, of connectedness. What do I mean here? Well, remember that in an entangled universe, there is no Newtonian perpendicular orthogonal space. No orthogonal space. What we have instead is topology. Topology do not have distance. I got the idea from reading about McDowell here, and I used it very liberal. But topology, this is what we perceive. I don't know if you remember, Kalle Lundahl, and this is also recorded when we spoke about the donut with Alan Emreen and Stephen Mangold, that the donut is a particular spatial form. The donut is what you can perceive. You cannot perceive three-dimensional space. Yeah, exactly. The donut actually is a specific space. And this is what we proprioceptively experience about our bodies. Oh, those are some lovely donuts. But do not confuse, listen now, do not confuse the donut with the Möbius strip. Remember,
bestseller there, donuts in form of Möbius strips.
yeah, well, but I was thinking, being a bit of an extra pun here, do not confuse Möbius strips with donuts. Donuts are closed, but Möbius strips are open. That they do share a superficial similarity. Would be hard to make some sort of donut from a Möbius strip. I think that could be workable. A lot of work it would take. Proprioception for Bohm was the possible. Somebody tried at least. They're actually cheating because they're two donuts in each other. Chain link bagel. Meep Möbius donut. It's great. So, why is proprioception then so important according to David Bohm and so other neurologists that we've taken up like Raymond Dart? I would say you also find that within the circle of scientist within the Alexander technique. Well, what we proprioceptively perceive is not Newtonian space. No. What we perceive is the topology of, and I would not like to use the term space here because it is so infused with the Newtonian idea of space. So when I use space here, that we understand space, think instead of the spiral within your ears, the balance shell, also the special area next to the balance shell where you have a sort of accelerative area where direction together with the shell detect where you're going, but also makes you understand how you move about in space. Now I use space with triple quotation marks to be extra careful. So now you understand why I sort of like the idea it doesn't have a content. You can understand the donut shape, but the donut shape in itself is a topological fact, not a Newtonian or material fact. And this is also what Anton Seilinger worked with and discovered, that fabulous exploration into topological space that he made in the Canary Islands 2012. We human beings, we have also access to that topological area. And we do it by proprioception and proprioception. Listen now I'd be able, hopefully, hopefully, to close the bagel. And that is, this is what we mean by proprioception. So I want to get rid of the idea that we walk around in an orthogonal space where we have X, Y, Z, and we are somehow inside of that. Does that make any sense? I can ask the question directly here to Kalle.
Yes, and there is independence doesn't exist.
No. And it's not that outsideness of Newtonian space. You are connected directly. And this is why topology, this is why we mention topology so many times in contact with Allan Embreen and Stefan Mangold. So quantum is all about topology, not XYZ, not XYZ. And therefore, one could say that our proprioception, it doesn't have a content in the idea of definite position. That doesn't mean anything within this area. Why doesn't it mean anything? Well, for one thing, take the Klein bottle. Beautiful depiction of space, but it doesn't localize in the grid system of Newtonian geometry or Cartesian geometry, if you like. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever in that system. It is one could say this way, this is partly false. One could say it's a space that is interpenetrative, that goes inside of your body as well as outside of your body at the very same time. And you sensing that, that is your proprioception. And that's foundational for what later, this is second hand, I mentioned the first hand, the second hand is after the event in Wheeler DeWitt, and that is space and time, for instance, in the regular sense, the Newtonian, doesn't have to be it, but it's afterwards. Before you will have proprioceptive understanding that doesn't take X, Y, Z. It is indeterminate, but that doesn't mean that it is without value. It is incredibly valuable. I will try to look a little bit more into Bohm in the second leg of this. Kalle, please come in here. I hope I have made myself sensible here.
Yes, absolutely. And so this paper by Tang is from 2022, as you can see here. So, what is my point? It's published 10 years after this quantum, the most important experiment.
Yeah, indeed.
With scale. And it's partially paradoxical because in this year, 2022, the Nobel Prize was given to Zeilinger, who made this discovery. So, why is it relevant? This is actually there. So, free space quantum interpretation. So, the point is that nothing can be independent. So, exactly. This paper by Tang is actually outdated by 10 years. Or so it's outdated in 2 ways. So okay, in 2012 it was disproven, and then 2022 it was confirmed, so to say, with a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
So
the very same year.
Yes. So sorry to say, his conclusions are invalid, and Nobel Prize confirmed it, and Zeilinger can also say a thing or two about this. So let me, instead of this, I want to give you an illustration of what this means. Let me give a Qigong ball. Let me see. I think this is my understanding. Let me see. Let me see. You actually holding it. Here. Let me see. We don't have to see the video itself, but you see that this here, he's holding a ball between his hands.
Yeah, it's spiraling. Yes.
No, okay, spiraling, that's also correct, but my point is not so much spiraling in this case. Let me see if I can even up better. This is not the ideal to make my point cross. Let me see. Here. Okay, so this is a real ball, but I don't want to show a real ball. Okay, this is a real ball. Let me see. There are many illustrations of it. I think this is actually very good. So this municipal training, let me see. You see somebody, he's holding, so to say, an imaginary ball between his hands.
Yeah, I see that.
So, and I would like to juxtapose it to the Zeilinger experiment for 2012. So we have, so in 2012, it was proven that whatever happens here, happens also here.
Oh yeah.
So we know, thanks to this experiment, everything is connected. So let's say that you have a tick. You have ticks, as Tang gives an example. So let's say you have a tick here. It will always affect this. Of course, you can be sick, so to say. Something is not working properly, but you're still aware of it, even in a very, very, very limited sense. Will you agree with me, Hans?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, yes.
So there is no independence. Independence is never possible. Independent to we can call it limited. If you're sick, of course, then you have a limited sense of your body. limited use of your body and so forth, but there is never any independence. And it's interesting also, but as far as I can see, there is no references to neuroscience in this paper, although he speaks about these things. I have not seen, he has only references to philosophers, McDowell and so forth. Or did you see any reference to neuroscience?
No, there is not as such. I think, though, at the year 2012, that wouldn't have helped much. But
No,
today,
I know.
Today it's much better, yeah. 2022, 23.
Yes, but,
much
so.
better, yeah. I made another point. Did you like that one? I said that proprioception is intransitive because it doesn't take an object, at least not an object in the ordinary sense of being material, definitely a placed object in the XYZ, in contrast to what we normally perceive to be sensuous data, which take some sort of object. I see the ball, for instance, using the thing that you show, or the donut. So I see something, or I hear something, I sense something. Proprioception does not take an object. That's one of the few points that McDowell and Hao Tang actually make, which is rather interesting, actually. Proprioception is more quantum mechanical in a way.
And I find it's a little bit peculiar that this Tang, who has a Chinese name, has these kind of thoughts. I'm certain if I would go to a Qigong teacher, he would laugh at these ideas that something can be independent because they have a perfect.
I think he would. I think he would. This goes to show how massive the influence of the Cartesian/Newtonian thinking is. And once you mentioned sailing, you will have just, as we say in Swedish, people looking like fågelholkar, like bird cages, or what do you say, bird boxes, open rounded mouths with starry eyes. No, inte fågelskrämma, utan fågelholk. Yes. Birdhouse. That was that easy. You will get these open mouses. Yeah, it's great. In the next part, I will bring in topology a bit. So there will be a parallel reading with another text. I'll make it short as well. And I deliver that parallel text. I think we have to end here because
yes, let's end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a very pleasant day and morning or evening, wherever you are. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.